and welcome everyone to a new episode by the B2B Pod by the Pulse of Dubai. I have the pleasure to host a very special guest here in this episode, Charbel Zreiby. And today, the title of our episode is The Outlook on the Technology Shifts Shaping Business in the Next 5 Years.
Welcome to the B2B Pod by the Pulse of Dubai with your host, Radwa Hassan, a podcast that touches upon everything that's going on in and around the B2B industry.
Charbel Zreiby is a renowned industry and channel executive leader in the information technology sector. His passion for technology has fueled his journey of 22 years working closely with customers and partners, and during which he has managed to build a successful track record and win multiple industry awards. Charbel has been working with a channel ecosystem for the better part of his career in different leadership roles and with different global IT vendors covering the Middle East, Turkey, and Africa region. Charbel is a regular speaker at multiple regional events, and in addition to holding a master's degree in computer engineering, he's also certified in the fields of executive leadership coaching, emotional intelligence, and others. Welcome to the B2B Pod, Charbel. Really a pleasure to have you here.
Hello, Radwa, and thank you for having me, and thank you for the B2B Pod team as well. Happy to be here.
Thank you. And Charbel, I'm going to give a bit of an introduction about really the title of our episode and where this is coming from, and the identification of the six big technology trends, coming from the fact that technology has engulfed us in more ways than we can imagine. And when it comes to business, it has become pertinent to companies to be more adaptive and understand the tech landscape. The six technology trends that are expected to impact how business is done in the next 5 years are multi-cloud, edge computing, AI, machine learning, 5G, data management, and security. I personally see that they're very, very much shaping and changing everything that we do, and not just technology and business. So, Charbel, if you can just explain further your point of view and how you see these big technologies really being very important in shaping up the future and the present as well.
All right. So, before I start talking about the technologies and details, I just wanted to, give an overview of how the technology is actually shaping the way we live and shaping everything that's around us. And we've witnessed, the acceleration, especially after the pandemic. We've witnessed that acceleration where we've seen that without technology, we couldn't have sustained the way we were doing business, and we wouldn't probably were able to stay in lockdown for that much time that we had without having the ability to connect with other people, whether on a social level or on a professional level. So technology definitely can help us overcome a lot of the challenges that we could face, whether like socially, from a business perspective, in healthcare, and in many industries. So it's very important to look at technology and how this technology is shaping the future in multiple angles, and not just from in the business world. Now, specifically in the business world, and we've seen that the digital transformation has accelerated. We've seen that we were able to move a lot of the workforce into a remote workforce in a matter of few weeks. Some companies even went fully remote after that, or have adopted a hybrid workplace today. So, and without that technology, we wouldn't be able to do that. So part of that digital transformation, technology kept evolving, and we believe that there are specific, technology shifts that are going to be really part of the near future, and they are going to shape up the near future. And in no particular order, I can name them quickly. I think we live in a multi-cloud world, and cloud is one of the foundations of what's gonna still happen in the future. We talk a lot about the edge. It's one of the things that we really need to look at. In terms of connectivity, 5G today is actually changing the way we look at connectivity. And today, while 5G is already in action, let's say, we're talking about 6G and the development of 6G and how 6G is going to be different. We talk a lot about artificial intelligence and machine learning. And these are going to be in my opinion, they will exist in every single solution that we see. And data in general. Data is in everything we do today, we create data, and data is going to be really, and data management are going to be really a hot topic to look at. And definitely, last but by no means least, of course, equally important is security. That's going to really be a big and important player in every single aspect of what we do from a business perspective, especially with all of the, the threat landscape that is changing regularly and actually at a very fast pace nowadays. So I believe that these are the most important technology shifts that are going to really be business drivers and shape the way we do business in the next few years.
I fully agree with all of them. I see really how they all have evolved at a very fast pace and have made a big difference. And if we're to pick the top technologies that you believe really have the biggest impact and value, what would they be?
I would say edge computing and AI. That would be probably the two, in my opinion, that are going to make a big difference. And definitely security.
Okay. And if we take them each one individually, and if we start with edge computing, how do you see edge computing is really driving the future? And at the same time, how is it different from cloud computing?
All right. So in order to answer you, let me just shed the light a little bit on cloud. All right. So cloud in general is an operating model. Mm-hmm. It's not a location. All right. And cloud is not a new concept. Even if we go back in years, we used to have that concept, but in a different way because we did not have the right technology nor the right connectivity at the time. Right. Now, the way we look at cloud and the trend started probably I remember back in 2010, I was doing a presentation in one of the CIO events, and the title was "The Journey to the Cloud Starts Now." And this is when actually the cloud was starting to become a trend. And since those days, we evolved from cloud being just a public cloud, where actually customers can go and consume something remotely with the hyperscalers. And we moved from the cloud-first mentality to the data-first mentality, which actually started creating some repatriation from the cloud, where customers started thinking, okay, so I don't need to put all my workloads on the cloud or on a public cloud. I can have some of my workloads in my own data centers. And then technology evolved, and we started talking about the ability to move workloads to the cloud and back to the private cloud, so from public to private. And we started also having multiple, distributed environments. And this is what we call the edge. So today we live in a multi-cloud world where me as an organization can have my data and workloads sitting in different type of clouds. And the way I want to do it is by thinking where my data should be at which time. And it all depends really on what I need to achieve from a business outcome. So this multi-cloud world is actually going to continue evolving. We're seeing a lot of shift today also, for example, to the as a service model. I believe there will be a lot of advancements as well in terms of automation and others in the cloud world. And now back to the edge, it is that distributed environment that we created is what we're calling the edge. And a definition of the edge would be probably it's where actually data is being created and it's actually being acted upon where it was created. And an example of that, like a quick example of that would be each one of us. So today, each one of us is carrying a mobile device. That mobile device actually is generating data. It's connected probably to a smartwatch, which actually keeps telling us that, your heart rate is going up, your heart rate is going down, this is how much you slept. So we are an edge because as we're carrying this watch, the data is being created round the clock. It's being analyzed on the watch or on the device itself, which we're carrying. And then I'm getting those insights. So as a user, those insights are going to help me be more healthy. They're going to help me understand maybe that I have a heart problem. They are going to help me understand if I have a sleep apnea problem. So each one of us actually is an edge today. And that's like one of the simple examples that we can do or that I can give. And the edge is important. And why? Because based on an IDC study, actually by 2025, we're going to see that 90% of the operational processes that are going to be implemented within the organization is going to be at the edge. So that really shows how the edge environment is going to grow in the coming years.
Yes, most certainly. And I really like what you said about we're all moving edge computing. So yeah, indeed, this is how we can very much link it to a real example.
Yeah, and allow me, if you want to just give an analogy why we consider the edge as the fourth industrial revolution. Okay, so if we look back in time, people lived in three different industrial revolution. Okay, it started like with the water and steam, where like the water and boilers, so like a source of water or a boiler could have created, the electricity. All right. So this created a new opportunity. Okay. A new opportunity, but for people who either had, the means to be able to build those large boilers, all right, or like have access to a water source, like a river, for example. All right. So this was really like a centralized model where if there's a water source, we can have like a plant built next to it and, transform this water into electricity and then run the plant. Okay. Now, this evolved into a distributed model, which is like electricity, and that was the second industrial revolution. Now, electricity created a lot of opportunities because now with the electricity, we can do a lot of things, right? Mm-hmm. So, and it's distributed. So everybody has the capability to have electricity. So it created a lot of new opportunities. And that model actually is what took, why it's called an industrial revolution, because it allowed the world to have like new ideas to be put into practice. And then the third industrial revolution is what we live in today is actually the data center, right? So, and like the digital, if you want, like world that we live in. And this is where we started building those data centers and we've put the infrastructure into the data center, and these infrastructure serves a lot of workloads. They serve a lot of businesses and different types of things. And these data centers evolved into being like, let's say, in a cloud or in a public cloud, on a private cloud, but it's still somehow centralized because everything runs in that data center. All right, whether it's on a cloud or like on a public or private cloud. Now with the edge, and why the edge is thought to be the fourth industrial revolution is because everything is going to be decentralized. And I gave you an example about how each one of us is a walking data center or is a walking edge. But in every industry today, we can use the edge to build use cases that we thought were impossible previously. In manufacturing, in healthcare, in automotive, transportation, any industry that we can think of, education, any industry that we could think of, we can build edge use cases. And even if that use case is not there, the technology is available for like all of us to think how we can use this technology and deliver the use case that is going to help our customers deliver on their business outcomes.
Perfect. And I think along with Edge in the fourth industrial revolution is going to be Web3 as well, which is also reinforcing the decentralization movement that will really help a lot. So that is going to be one move to the future. But that's excellent. Thank you so much, Charbel. And if we go to another technology trend that is going to change the future, but massively change, part definitely of the fourth industrial revolution, which is the AI and machine learning, and the two aspects of how it looks like now, how companies are, some of them adapting AI, and how the not natural, but the ultimate and right way of taking in AI and avoiding the negatives of AI. What's your take on that?
All right. Well, that's
Two
like
questions.
a topic that requires probably like the AI topic is
Yes,
a topic that requires probably like 2 or 3
absolutely.
podcast episodes. So yeah, so definitely. First, I want actually like to highlight that we talk a lot about AI, which is artificial intelligence and machine learning, and sometimes there's this confusion that it's the same, but it's not. And like in order to simplify it, machine learning is actually is a subset of the artificial intelligence. Okay, and machine learning enables machines, to learn from data that has been created, so past data. Okay, without having it programmed. So I'll give you an example. Today we all like use Netflix, right? And every time you go to Netflix and you're watching a specific series, you get recommendations because you've seen this or because you've pressed like on that. We recommend you to see those ones. So this is actually like one example of machine learning. Yeah. Right, and this is why it's very different than what artificial intelligence is, which is actually the technology that is used to create intelligent systems that can simulate human intelligence. All right. This is, if you want, like the real definition of artificial intelligence. And until now, both AI and ML haven't been just about like, the algorithms or the programming, okay, but it's been evolved to a point where we started, giving AI some tasks to do. So for instance, we can like teach an AI to, let's say, do a task, whether it's mechanical or digital. But then also we made sure that the decision is still like with us as humans. So the AI does what it's tasked to do, but it actually does not take the decision when it should be like starting this task or stopping this task, right? But the way things are evolving today, we're going to see that AI is going to actually start being part of the decision. And it's going to learn when to take that decision and based on which parameters. And the way it's learning today, we can teach AI or train AI to do specific tasks. AI is going to be trained to actually take some decisions. And this is where we will see a lot of the automation being driven solely by AI. And we're not going to see like a human intervention in those. So it's very important to see that AI is not just something that is programmed to do something like ChatGPT, for example. And like, it's a trend. It's a trend now, but I wouldn't call it a trend. I would call it like something like really big. And have you ever experienced? Have you tried ChatGPT?
I have.
Because that's like a very like a straightforward example and simple example of how AI is evolving. Yeah, exactly. And now even I ask myself if ChatGPT was here like a few years ago, would I still go to school and university and graduate?
Yeah.
So would be a like valid question. But
to
really,
a different
like,
school, or maybe to take something that is really difficult, and then we go to space and say it's like, all right, we can.
Yeah, exactly. So I think AI really is gonna be like really one of the biggest revolutions in the way like we do business and the way we live. and a lot of use cases, like already use AI, and we're gonna see like more use cases that are gonna like use AI. So AI started like chatbots, so you log on a website and then you get somebody, hi, how can I help you? And mostly that chatbot is trained to answer the common questions. Okay, so it started like something simple like that, and then it turned into like a something that you can train to do more interactions. So for example, for ChatGPT, you can have a discussion. So it's like you start with a topic, and even if you ask a question that is related to that is like vague, like ChatGPT would consider that it is for this topic, for the same topic, and then the answers are still the same, like within the same context. So, and this is like something that is an evolution of like just a traditional chatbot. All right. So we're going to see a lot of AI today that is in the business, a lot of AI that is in every industry. And even today, like if you go on the web, you have AI powered websites that can help you do a lot of the tasks that we needed to, download software for it, or like we thought that we cannot do. So AI really is becoming like part of like the whole, if you want, business ecosystem. And even like in social media today, you can have AI tools where you can program them to like monitor your content, to suggest connections for you, to do so many things. So it's really like a whole new world that is out there, and that is for us to go and explore.
Yes, certainly. And I would also raise my concern about that for the new generations that are in schools now and we're going to come out. Then how really can the big techies take a role into making sure that they're not impacted with how powerful AI is going to be, and it doesn't hamper their will to learn, to go to school? It is becoming really difficult to convince this new generation to say, study, do that, look into harder fields that you can explore for your career, or even for to be an everybody wants to be a YouTuber or an entrepreneur. Now with AI, it becomes even more difficult, that they see that things are becoming much easier. Why do you want me to do that effort? So
Yes, I agree. And I think there will be some sort of governance. I mean, I cannot tell in which shape or form it will be, but there will be in some sort of governance on how like AI can be used or practiced. Yet even if we look at it, I mean, we can look at it from both angles. And I think like, let's say you're mentioning education, and I think like AI can add a lot of positives to education, but it's about like the education world on taking that decision that, okay, now we need to start embedding AI in what we're doing, or like in the learning systems that we have, and we're gonna let people like use maybe ChatGPT or like similar tools that are gonna get created to be able to respond to like let's say to write essays or anything like that. But then I don't know, but we can look at it this way, and also we can look at it that from the, okay, I'm going to resist the change angle. And eventually we've seen that throughout times with the technological advancements, that many industries or many companies, even like large famous companies who resisted the change and the evolution of the technology, just disappeared. So I believe it's very important, like for each industry, to embrace the power of the technology that's available to them, and understand how they can use this technology to be able to deliver better business outcomes to their customers, and like to their organization, and if you want, better service to their customers, better products, etc. So I think if we look at AI from this angle, I think it's going to be something big, and it's going to help in a lot of the
yes, most
industries.
certainly. And I think, as you said, is how we can integrate it and implement it. This is what makes the difference. Even with machine learning, how you can improve the practices of AI and how it's used to make it assist and collaborate and complement the human factor, and not to replace it and bring something else. and that's what makes things a little bit complicated when some organizations maybe are not aware of the consequences or how to use this technology in the best fashion.
Yes. And by the way, a fun example
Yeah.
about AI and ChatGPT, to be specific. So I was actually reading an article yesterday where they were talking about, they asked University of Minnesota, they actually made ChatGPT do one of the law exam tests that they have. And actually the ChatGPT passed with a 75% and C. So score. So basically, actually, it passed. So now, what they're looking like all the students who did the exam actually scored much higher, but what they were like surprised with that the exam, which had multiple choice questions, some yes and no's, but also like some text to write, that AI was able to understand a specific law and a specific, or like to use a specific law in a specific context. And this is actually what is the eye opener. That was one of the eye openers, not just that it passed the exam, but the ability to understand the law and to use it in specific contexts. So, and this is how AI is really
An
like
A
becoming
student.
big.
It's learning
Yeah,
so hard and fast, faster than the human pace.
it
Yes.
didn't study well. It didn't study well that day. Yeah.
This show is brought to you by Logicron, a leading demand generation company, providing solutions and synchronizing all your B2B needs logically.
Charbel, we can't leave this topic without, of course, focusing on security. It is very, very important. And now we're seeing that there is the next generation security, not the security that we've always talked about, but then there is another leap into security that is different, of course, with the multiple devices that people are using and how to control them and authentication and everything. What would you really share with us is your view to the next generation security and how it's shaping up, maybe also in our region here, and your take on that?
Look, security is like a very important topic. And I think the way security is today, it's really distributed in a sense of there's a lot of security solutions in the market today. And there's no standardization, if you want, on how to use these security solutions. So, based on one of the articles I was reading the other day as well, there is more than 6,000 IT security or cybersecurity vendors today in the market. And imagine like you need to take a decision on which security solutions from these. Okay, maybe I will look at the top 20 eventually, but still the security, if you want, as a model is really fragmented. And today, when we have a multi-cloud world and that spans from the edge to the core to the cloud, it's important that we really be able to have a security strategy that can really cover me and my data from the point of its inception. And it can be like edge, or it can be a device like my phone or my laptop or anything like that, all the way to where eventually like the data that I create is going to be residing. Okay. And also we need to make sure how we're going to be protecting it while it's moving. And this is where actually when we're going like in the near future and creating all those data pipelines, it becomes really like a question mark in how are we going to like manage those data pipelines, which is a different topic, but also how are we going to be able to secure it, okay, while it's on the fly and while it's actually like sitting in one of my multi-cloud components. So, and I believe what's really like what we're looking at today is how we can build or how we can achieve a zero trust environment, which is like a security model where resources are granted only after strict authentication, and whether like the user is actually requesting it as an internal user or external user. So, and this is what zero trust means, that we're not going to trust anyone, okay? Especially that, like in security, more than 90% of the attacks happen with the end user device. So they start there actually, before actually they go into like the infrastructure or the data center. It actually starts on the edge. So achieving that zero trust environment requires several steps, and making sure that there's a framework. And today I believe like this is what NIST is working on, the National Institute of Standards and Technologies. They've built their a security framework which actually like helps achieve that zero trust environment. And today it's very important to look on for if I'm a customer today and if I have my own environment, how I can really go and achieve that zero trust. It's definitely not going to be maybe one player who's going to be able to do that, but it's going to give us an understanding on how we can really build a standard where really we can identify and classify all that data, all the assets that we have a multi-factor authentication methodology that we use, have a sort of instead of having like a large network, we can probably create have our network, what we call network segmentation, so where we divide the network into smaller and isolated segments. So if there's a breach, we can probably limit the scope of that breach, have a continuous monitoring and auditing for all the activities that are happening on the network, make sure we use the right encryption for all the data that's going on the fly. And definitely having a zero trust environment is not just something that you do once. It's something that has to be continuous, that it has to be assessed, it has to be audited, and we have to take the decision on how we can improve it further, because also the attacks are not like just attacks that are happening today. The threat landscape, as I mentioned at the start of our discussion, are continuously evolving, and we need to make sure that every time we have something new, we are already ready for it. We don't need to pay the price so we can get ready for it.
Yeah, of course. And with security, I think just as technology is evolving, security and the threats are evolving, and the hacking space or the attacks that would come are definitely different than before, I think. Sci-fi movies that we would watch is just like are becoming reality, I think.
Yeah, imagine that like somebody can take control of any connected device, maybe X number of 1,000 number of devices, use those devices to probably like send a denial of service attack.
Yeah.
And so it's really like
a reality.
it's what we see in the movies actually is the reality, and it's what we see in the movies are built on concepts. And these concepts lived until we today have the technology, to be able to apply those concepts. So probably these concepts were like some innovations, but we did not have the right technology to do them. So we, transformed them into movies that we enjoyed. But eventually, and I remember like one of the movies, if I'm not mistaken, Mission Impossible, like Tom Cruise was driving the car through the phone. And that was probably like 10 years ago. Today now we are in a world where we have like self-driving cars, right? So it's not even like we're controlling it; it's self-driving. So it's really mind-blowing, and we are lucky to be living in a period where we are really experiencing those technological advancements and how like the world is changing around us. It's nice, actually.
So very, very interesting and very insightful information. Thank you, Charbel. And that brings me to my last bit of the episode, which I really like and love so much, about sharing your recommendations to the listeners. And here we're going to use your expertise to share the recommendations on two fronts. One is for the clients and to how they can pick among this overwhelming space of technology and the fast space and within the six big technologies, the most appropriate ones, and to make the decision. And the other part of the question is how you can advise the other tech professionals and professionals who are listening to us, is like to consult their customers and to be really guiding them as to what technology trends to adapt and to take them through that journey.
Great. Thank you, Radwa. And I mean, Look, one of the takeaways probably is what I just mentioned, is that we're really lucky to live in a world that is evolving and where we have technologies in our hands that can help us actually do a lot of the tasks that we could not do efficiently before. So generally speaking, I would say to all the listeners that embracing the technology, embracing those advancements is very important for life, whether in the social life or the business life or anywhere. It's really important to embrace the technology and understand how we can use this technology in order to lead a better life, to have a better job, or to help our customers eventually, or our clients. So it's very important, and this is probably if you want the generic takeaway. Most specifically, if I'm talking today to one of my customers, I would probably tell them that, especially if I'm talking with the business, that today the technology is the enabler, and the business already knows that. But when planning what projects that you have in the coming years, and today customers plan their budgets and they plan their projects 2-3 years ahead. They don't just have a short span of planning. It's very important to incorporate those technologies and understand those technologies today, to know how these technologies can help you in your future projects, because they might have a project that they want to achieve, and maybe AI can help them have a faster time to market. Maybe AI can help them have let's say, better reach, or help them understand where they have a better reach, or edge solutions, for example, like in retail, right? So it's really important to understand those technologies, talk to professionals. If you don't know where to find the right data, talk to professionals, understand the technologies, and see how those professionals can help you build your plans and your business plans, and which technologies need to be incorporated. And this is how you decide who to partner with on your journey for the next few years, who are the solution providers, or the IT vendors that you really need to be partnering with in order for you to achieve the success that you want to achieve, and be ahead of your competitors or anything like that. Now, from a system integrators, or since I've been in channel as well for the most part of my career, I would really, and this is the discussion that I'm having today with our partners, is that you need to change. You cannot just look at what you've been doing has been successful for the last 5-10 years, and that take it for granted that it's going to be successful in the next 5 years. You need to start changing the way you do business. You need to start changing the discussion with your customers. You need to start talking more about what they want to achieve. You need to tell them how they can achieve it. Create your own, if you want, intellectual property based on different solutions that you have bundled, or a sort of a reference architecture that you can put your stamp on it and go drive it. That's going to give you an edge on any other traditional, solution provider, or system integrator, etc. So it's really important for those service providers and system integrators to really train their people on the different technologies that are out there, and understand how they can use those to create the right solutions for their own customer base.
Yes, most certainly. And I can't agree more with the fact that what really people used to do in the past 5 years will never going to take them into the future.
Yes, I'll give you a simple example. Today, if I provide a specific infrastructure, and I'm used to sell this infrastructure to my customers, today probably they don't have an infrastructure need, and they're not going to talk to me, but they might be talking to somebody who can give them an IoT solution, or maybe an AI solution, right? And whether it's an IoT or AI or anything, it's going to drive infrastructure behind it, because everything has to run on something, right? So eventually, that traditional system integrator who believes that customer is loyal to them is still loyal to them, but they're talking to somebody else who's giving them something different, and they're not going to go and buy the infrastructure from someone else. They are going to buy it from that different provider that is actually talking to them about something else. And this is really, really what's actually we started seeing happening, and we see a lot of AI startups actually being born here in the region. We are seeing AI, for example, startups being born outside, but actually coming and starting their operations in the region. And they are looking for those people to partner with. And so it's very important really to be really up to date with what's going on and really rethink the way we do business if I'm talking from a system integrator or service solution provider point of view.
Certainly. I like very much the quote that says, "What got you here won't get you there." So people really need to
100%.
think within this context and to speed up and try at least to match the pace of change. Charbel, this was a very interesting episode. Thank you so much for your time and for all the insights and great knowledge that you have shared. And to our listeners, thank you so much for listening. Please feel free to send us any questions and comments and any inquiries, and we'll be happy to get back to you with the answers. Thank you, Charbel, so much.
Radwa, thank you very much. I really enjoyed our discussion and happy to be here. And I wish everyone well.
Thanks,
and thanks
Charbel.
again.
All right. Thanks, everyone. And stay tuned for more episodes.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the B2B Pod by the Pulse of Dubai with your host, Radwa Hassan. This show was brought to you by Logicron. If you aren't already, make sure you subscribe to our podcast on Spotify, Google, or Apple Podcasts. If you have any questions or suggestions, you can visit us on thepodcast.ae and follow us on social media at the B2B Pod. See you next time.